Today I'm going to show you how to create a very simple camera follow. We can follow our player or we can follow another object in the scene that we want to follow. So today we will be following our player. Because our player has a tag of player, we will be using a tag in order to do it. But of course we can find our player by the type as well. But I think that finding it by the tag is quite easy. So why not to do it this way? So let's create a new script. We might do it by going into scripts, right clicking and create C# script. And let's call it camera follow. Now we can open the script in Visual Studio, for example, and let's get rid of the comment first as we don't need it. And we don't need system collections using statements on the top as well, so let's get rid of those. And first thing, we need to find our player in the scene. Of course, we could create a public variable and just drag and drop it, but sometimes we want to instantiate some objects, and to be sure they are in the scene, we would like to find them, let's say by the tag. So let's create a variable of type GameObject and call it player, or we can call it like a target. It's up to you. We are going to show you how to follow the player, so that's why I'm calling it a player. And now in the start method we want to find it. So let's use our variable, and now we are trying to find it by the tag. So we need to type GameObject again, and now find GameObject with tag. Do not confuse with objects, because we want to find only this one object. Find GameObject with tag, and now we have to provide the tag that our player is on, which is player. So now let's create the function where we're going to follow the player. So void, and let's give it a name follow player. And here we need to check if the player exists, because we don't want to have any errors. If player exists, then we want to follow it. So probably the best way to be sure that this is quite universal and we can follow it in all directions, we can create 3 separate variables for x, y and z. So let's use it. Float x equals to player, and now transform and position and x, of course. And now we can do the same thing with others, but it's up to you. If you want to follow the player along the horizontal axis and vertical axis, but if you are in 2D, then probably you don't want to follow it with the Z direction. That's why I will duplicate it and change to Y. Here I will change to Y as well. But when it comes to the Z axis, I will just keep it as it is. So in float Z, I will just use the GameObject transform position Z, because we don't want to change the Z position of the camera. In the end, we want to move our camera. So GameObject now transform position, and we need to assign a new vector to it, and the vector will consist of all the values that we just assigned, which is x, y and z, like so. So our method is done. We can call it in the update, so let's move it to the update, but this is not a very good idea, because we are going to move our player in the update, and we never know which update will be called first, in this script or in the other script. And in that case, we need to be sure that the player has moved before we will move the camera. In that case, it's best to change this update to late update, to be sure that the camera is always moving after the player has moved. Let's go back to Unity and see how it works. So of course we need to attach our camera follow to the main camera, and now let's press play. So here we go. Wherever we go, the camera is following us. And if you like it that it's moving up and down, then it's fine. But let's say you don't want the camera to be moving up and down, you just want to keep it constant. So in that case, you can just go here, and instead of using player transform position Y, you can just use the same thing as we used in here. So we might just use the Y position of the camera. So once it's done, just press play again, and now it won't be moving up and down. We'll just be using it to follow on the horizontal axis. Cool. But let's say you don't want your player to be exactly in the middle. Maybe you want it to be shifted to the left a little bit. So we need to create some offset. So how to do it? If we are doing only the X position, we could just add 4 to it, for example. So now our player is moved to the left a little bit, or if you wish, the camera is moved to the right by 4 units. But I think it should be good to move it left a little bit more. So let me do it. I will just type 6. Let's check it again. So now it's moved left a bit more, which is quite good, I would say. But you could, of course, create your own vector and call it offset, for example. So how to do it? You could just create a new vector in here, because it won't be changing really. So you can call it offset, and you can assign some values in the start to it. So just type offset and now create a new vector out of it and add some values. And we want our object or our player to be 6 units to the left. So we are typing 6F. We don't want it to be moved up and down, and we don't want it to be moved on the Z. So that's why we are leaving zeros in Y and Z. And now instead of adopting our X value, we'll just add this vector in here. So we can just type plus offset. So now save it and let's go back to Unity, press play, and we should see no difference because it should be exactly the same as it was before, and it is. So this is how we create a simple camera follow. It's pretty cool, isn't it? If you like this video and you would like to learn more about the Unity and the programming, you can see our courses on Udemy. The link will be provided in the description. See you later!